Last time on Dragon Ball Z, I got really flamed for saying that Budokai 1 had a better story mode than any of the other Budokais, but only because you guys misinterpreted that as me saying Budokai 1 is just the better game when I was just talking about the story mode. And now we're talking about Budokai 2. How will the comments misinterpret my message this time? Find out right now. As I start the video. Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2. For being a sequel to one of the most popular Dragon Ball video games, it isn't really talked about much. Which is weird because it did add in new features and improved, quote unquote, on some of the other lesser fun things in Budokai 1. But it absolutely did not help this game's reputation when the team behind the Budokai HD Collection decided not to include it. Which not only confused the hell out of fans, but also straight up caused people to question what the fuck were they thinking. The team behind the HD Collection definitely acknowledged that Budokai 2 is missing, simply stating, when you look at the three games, 1 and 3 are actually more straight up fighting games. 2 is a fighting game, but it also introduced some other elements of gameplay that kind of broke off the fighting aspects a little bit. Because of this, Budokai 2 in today's age is often forgotten about. So let's take a look at Budokai 2 and appreciate what this ignored sequel had to offer. Let's look at the immediate obvious thing, these graphics. Moving from Budokai 1's toy-like aesthetic, Budokai 2 features cel-shaded graphics. So, you know, it looks like this. I'm not saying these graphics are bad, but God forbid you look at some of these models and some of the angles and you go, what the actual fuck am I looking at? Depending on your artistic eye, you might see this as an improvement. I personally disagree. The main thing that Budokai 2 did that made it stand out from the other games is how it handled its story mode. Instead of back-to-back fights with cutscenes to break them up in between, I hope you're a fan of board games. Yes, the story mode is a board game through and through. You pick the characters you want to use, and during your turn you can move them one by one, picking up items that'll give you buffs, collect Dragon Balls, and you run into opposing characters to start a fight.
Talk for real?
At the start of each chapter, you can actually pick what characters you want. So you can actually have Goten help Goku fight the Saiyans at the beginning of the game, or have Kid Trunks fight Frieza during the Namek arc. You can get some silly interactions with some characters as well, and to top it off, the mode doesn't overstay its welcome. But it might be worth to take a step back from the fighting and go looking for some Dragon Balls. Because if you end up collecting all 7 Dragon Balls by the end of the story mode, you can make a wish. And god fucking damn it, we're back at the fucking breakthroughs. At the very least, it's locked behind the story mode and I don't have to go back and forth into a shop just to find these things. Overall, it is a fun story mode with some good amount of replay value, especially when you start unlocking other characters. What the fuck did they do to the... What's going on with the versus mode? Why is it just a PNG image? What happened to the cool pop-up effects? In terms of the newcomers, we have Android 20, basically anyone you can name at the top of your head from the Buu saga, and fusions. That's pretty fucking cool. Oh, and there's what if fusions here too. You can fuse Goku and Hercule to get Gokule, and you can fuse Yamcha and Tien to get Tiencha. And they have their own unique attacks. It's really cool, actually. With certain characters, you can perform a fusion technique that'll let you fuse mid-fight, but you'll have to perform a QuickTime event properly in order to do it. If you fuck it up, you might end up with a failed fusion, which is just funny. You see, with the fusion dance, only you can fuck that up. You press the buttons on screen and don't miss. If it's a Potara fusion, you have to hit a button, and if your opponent hits the same button, they get to interrupt the fusion and ruin your chance. They'd have to get lucky, but it still sucks when it happens. You even have what-if Buu absorptions, like Vegeta, Cell, Frieza, Tien, and Yamcha. The only problem with the Buu absorptions is that it is completely random which one you end up with. As far as I can tell, you cannot control which one you get, which kinda sucks. But before we continue on, let me elaborate on that QuickTime event thing, because it's actually kind of an important mechanic in this game. There are some attacks that, after you perform them, will play a cutscene, and some of them might have a QuickTime event that you have to perform properly in order for the attack to come out and do full damage. Some of them let your opponent participate as well to mitigate some of that. Yeah, I think this is what they meant by this game introduced things that broke off from being a fighting game. It can be annoying sometimes, but it isn't a deal breaker. And of course there are other modes like World Tournament. I wouldn't say this mode is any better or as good as the original. It definitely isn't as flashy, and I personally just don't like the look of it, so you know, I just don't like it. There's also the shop, which fundamentally is the exact same thing as the previous one, except infinitely better, because you can just straight up rob Bulma of everything she owns. There is a glitch in this game. I don't know how many versions it's present in, but if you hold one of the triggers and continuously leave and enter the shop, the game will just give you a random capsule for free. So that means if you do this enough times, eventually you will just have everything in the game and you didn't have to spend a single penny or grind anything. I just think that's hilarious. You don't have to do anything in this game. Just do that and you'll have everything. There's not really a point to play the game now. Although there is one unique mode in this game compared to the original, and that's Babidi's Spaceship. It's essentially a challenge mode where you're presented with a challenge and you're supposed to do it as many times as you can, and you will fill up Majin Buu's radar clock thingy. It takes a very long time to do, and I didn't do it, so I'm just going to not do it. You want to know something interesting? While that may be all the game has to offer in terms of the PS2 version, later versions did get new things. For example, the Japanese version of Budokai 2, which for some reason came out after, has added features, such as references to Neko Majin. Like, there's a new level in the story mode that is just a reference to Neko Majin, and also Kuriza is here as an alternate costume for Frieza, so that's pretty cool. I can't name many other Dragon Ball games that have Neko Majin in it, so you know that's pretty cool. And it also has the Cell games. There's also a new difficulty option in the Z difficulty, which is kind of cool. But the issue with these new features is that we didn't get the Neko Majin stuff, but we did get Cell games and Z difficulty when it came to the GameCube version of Budokai 2. So we did get some of this new stuff, and it is cool. I don't have the GameCube version, unfortunately. I used to, but it's gone, and I cannot show that because emulating it is, for some reason, a bitch. But if you thought that was it for version differences for Budokai 2, oh boy, you'd be wrong. There is Dragon Ball Z 2V, which is a revamped version of Budokai 2, exclusively released in Japan. Only about 2,000 copies were made of this version, and they were only distributed through giveaways to lucky V-Jump readers. It's probably the most rarest Dragon Ball thing, video game wise at least. And you might be wondering, what does this new exclusive Japanese version of Dragon Ball Z 2V include? You'll never fucking believe it, but the game starts off with everything unlocked. So it's basically just a complete file. But also, it comes with Cooler. But Cooler's not his own character, he's a alternate costume for Frieza. So yeah, that really is it. There are some other exclusive alternate costumes in this version, but they're not as cool as Cooler being in the game. To be fair, that is the only significant difference in this version, it's just that Cooler's in it. And you know, after learning about all these different versions of Budokai 2 and how each version has differing content, it makes you wonder, how the fuck didn't they add it into the HD collection with everything included in one fucking HD collection? It just doesn't fucking make sense. And I think that's a good way to sum up this video. It doesn't make sense. Budokai 2 does have its good points, don't get me wrong. It is a fun version of Budokai. But when it comes to choosing between which version of Budokai to play, 1, 2, 3, any of the PSP games, there's really no reason to play 2. And for the small additions that they did that make it notable as a release, isn't entirely worth playing through. Like, the most unique thing this game has going for it is the board game aesthetic, which is purely single player. I think if this had a multiplayer aspect to it for the board game, it would be a lot of fun, I bet. But I don't think the what-if fusions that they do have in this game are worth going back to, just because of how much better the other Budokai games after this are. It's just significantly better. And if you disagree with me, alright, cool. Thanks for watching. I meant to release this video like a couple months ago. Like, I had this video planned for a few months, like right around the time when Budokai Tenkaichi 4 was announced. And I just haven't been working on it. A lot of stuff had been keeping me occupied. Life happened. So I finally felt like I had an opportunity to finally work on this video. So here it is. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you subscribe, because if you look at this graph, yeah, that looks bad. Let's fix that. And if you really want to support me, make sure you join the party by hitting the little join button down below. I have a lot of stuff planned for member exclusive things, so look forward to that. And I have a lot of other videos planned. 2 of them are currently in the works, so I don't know when those will be finished, but look forward to those. And I'll see you in the next one.